Welcome to Day 5, Session 2 of the Virtual School on IP. The topic for this session is trademarks as an essential business asset. Our speaker for this session is Mr. Mathews Verghese, who is a managing associate with Intel Advocare and has extensive work experience of around 12 years in trademark, copyright and design prosecution and handles both Indian and international clients. His practice focuses on advising on all aspects of trademarks, copyright and design prosecution, including clearance search, strategic development and management of worldwide trademark, copyright and design portfolios. With prior experience in handling matters in the contentious and the non-contentious field, his experience and focus is to assist clients with commercial and holistic solutions to the numerous intellectual property problems. His experience has also led him to handle clients across various industries such as apparel, luxury, pharmaceuticals, FMCG, technology, and retail. Mr. Mathews regularly appears before the 5 trademark registries in India and has in-depth knowledge as to its working. Pursuant to completing his law from a prestigious law school in India, Mathews went on to also complete his master's in intellectual property laws from Queen Mary University of London. He is also an adjunct professor for intellectual property laws at his alma mater for the last 5 years. His teaching activity adds another dimension to his personality and keeps him abreast with the latest happenings in the field of intellectual property law. It is indeed an honor to have you with us in today's session, and we welcome you, sir. All queries related to the session shall be the Q&A round. At the end of the session, participants may type their queries in the chat box. Now, I would like to hand over the session to Mr. Mathews Verghese and would request him to make his presentation on the topic today. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa, for those kind words. Over the last couple of months, what I have found is that I've been using a lot of trademark material. It starts from me reading the newspaper or a digital version of it through the Geo app, watching movies on Netflix or Amazon Prime or maybe even Disney Hotstar and a whole host of providers that there are, buying groceries and vegetables through apps such as Milk Basket or Big Basket and so on and so forth. What I'm basically doing is using trademarks of various companies through various apps to achieve something. As a consumer, it makes my life easier. What is happening also that the brand owners on the other end are doing a lot of advertising to ensure that we are aware of these services and these products. So today, as a brand owner, how do you monetize your asset that you have with you? As the saying goes, the longer you're not taking action, the more money you're losing. So if you are holding onto an asset and not monetizing it, you may be losing the money you could actually make on it. And that holds true for any asset. It could hold true for a car, land, houses, and so on and so forth. So if you have a house today as an investment and you're not staying in it, you would try to lend it out. You would try to lease it. Similar with land, which is just lying there, you will try to make it productive, maybe do farming on it, maybe build a house and then give it out on lease. If you have commercial property, you're looking to lease it out to people who would take it. So trademark is also an asset which can be monetized through various ways. We are all aware of it, we've seen it, we've partaken in it, but we haven't looked at it from the perspective of a business asset and from a legal perspective. So that's what we're going to focus on during the course of the next 30 to 40 minutes that we do this particular session, right? Thank you, Lisa. A trademark includes a word, a symbol, a logo, a phrase. It's capable of being graphically represented. It's used or proposed to be used, and it identifies and distinguishes goods and services from that of others. This is what exactly a trademark is. Now, Lisa, can you go to the examples of trademarks in the next slide, please? Yes. We see a whole bunch of examples, logos, marks, which are very, very famous, which we also are a part of on a daily basis. Like I stated, Netflix is something that I've grown fond of using over the last couple of months, and so has everybody else. Mercedes-Benz cars have been very common. McDonald's and KFC is something that were not delivering for a longest period of time, which are being delivered right now. So these are all bunch of things that are being done, which or other trademarks which are being used over the course of the last couple of months that we can see, and we have all partaken or used all of these over time as well. Now, can move forward, please. Yeah, trademark as a business asset. When we say a trademark is a business asset, what do we exactly mean? For one, it's an effective marketing tool, which basically means that today, without marketing, of course, an asset cannot be monetized. That's plain and simple. But how do we monetize these assets in any particular way, mean, or form? The answer is very simple. The first thing we need to do is put it out there. We need to get the word out there, and we do that through various different means. Social media being the most. So when I put up on social media that I have created this wonderful brand of conflicts with XYZ name, I'm actually marketing my trademark or marketing my goods and services using that brand in a particular way or manner. Second, a means of revenue through licensing and franchising. So licensing and franchising, we've heard about, maybe we've even studied about it, but we are now going to look at it from an aspect of how we can use it to monetize our trademark asset. Provides coverage in relevant markets where business operates. We, as a business owner, have varied interests spanning across the world. It does not necessarily have to be in India. So we file trademarks so that we are protected under the relevant law in these various markets where we would like to conduct business. So without such protection of our trademarks, we might see a situation where our rights are infringed. Promoting customer loyalty and reputation is very important as far as trademarks is concerned. It is one of the scopes of a trademark. Reputation and goodwill are something on the basis of which a client purchases a product. Today, if you were to see a bar of chocolate with nothing written on it, but just the color purple, you would relate it to Cadbury's and pick it up. You would pick up or purchase two phones, one with the branding Apple on it and one on it. You would pick up the phone with the branding on it rather than the one without, because customer loyalty and reputation and a goodwill attached to trademarks is something which affects purchasing behavior. And it is much required if one wants to use trademark as an asset to monetize. Trademarks are tradable assets, just like any other assets of an enterprise or a company. So you get assigned trademarks, you could license trademarks, you could do franchising and a whole bunch of other things that we will talk about on the upcoming slides. Yeah, let's move forward, Mona Lisa. Using trademarks as business assets, like I just stated earlier, licensing, franchising, merchandising, component branding, brand extensions, and co-branding. For the purpose of our study today, I have divided the topic into 6 major portions, which we will deal in detail in the coming slides. So we'll take licensing and move on to the various other topics such as franchising, merchandising, component branding, brand extension, and co-branding. And we'll deal with these topics in a very simplistic manner using examples. That would be the best way to understand it, because we actually have all partaken in each of these various topics without knowledge of it. Yeah, let's move forward, Mona Lisa. Trademark licensing. So let's understand what licensing means. To give a license is to give a particular permission to do something. So when it comes to trademarks, the trademark owner retains ownership. So I'm not transferring ownership to someone. I'm not selling the asset outright. What I am doing is telling someone you can use something for a particular period of time for a particular consideration. And the consideration is what is termed as royalties. So the trademark owner in a licensing agreement is always known as a licensor, and the other party is the licensee. Grants permission to the licensee to use those trademarks on mutually agreed terms and conditions for a specified period of time. The licensor or the trademark owner remains in control of that particular asset and does not transfer the ownership of it to the other party or the licensee. Quality is also retained by the licensor and is central to any licensing agreement. The best example that I found very interesting was when Philips got into a licensing with Videocon to sell Philips television sets, which are manufactured by Videocon itself. So you had Videocon was manufacturing the TV with the branding Philips below it and was being sold across the world and in India especially. The quality standards were those maintained by Philips. Hence, Videocon is nothing but a manufacturer for these television sets. In today's day and age, we find that a lot of goods and services are manufactured, or the goods are manufactured in China. This is a common misnomer which everybody knows about. Manufacturing in China, and now we have the equivalent wherein we say manufactured locally, right? So, or we have this new slogan which has come out saying vocal for local. So now we as Indians are trying to manufacture phones and other products locally in India and sell them as well. So, but earlier what was happening was that we were getting them manufactured in China or another country, importing them and with a branding and then selling them in India. So this is what licensing means. Franchising. This is another way to monetize your trademark assets. In franchising, the best example that you could possibly think of is these two food companies that you see the logos of on your screens, McDonald's and Subway. McDonald's across the world have the same quality standards. They look the same. You walk into a McDonald's shop, it looks exactly the same. It uses the same colors, the same trading style. There is no difference across different franchisees in different cities of McDonald's or of Subway. McDonald's, interestingly, has even a movie on this, wherein, I forgot the OTT provider, I believe it was Netflix, if I'm not mistaken. They have a wonderful movie on how McDonald's started, for those who are interested, and what McDonald's actually trades in. I'm not exactly going to tell you what they trade in, because I think that would just kill the movie. They don't trade in burgers or fries, like is commonly misunderstood. They trade in something else. So for those who are interested, go take a look at the movie. It's a wonderful, wonderful watch, and gives you an entire history of how McDonald's started and what their actual asset is. Okay. Franchising is an agreement where the franchisee is allowed by the franchisor in return for a fee to use a business model and its licensed IP rights, namely trademarks, supported by training, technical support, and mentoring. So in a franchisee model, that is why across the board, wherever these outlets are, you would find that they are exactly the same. The burger tastes exactly the same. The fries are of particular quality. They are made exactly the same. The size of the fries are very similar and identical. So you would find that there is no difference between a franchisee based in New Delhi and a franchisee based, let's say, in Hyderabad of McDonald's or of Subway. So franchise agreements are given to interested third parties. They're given the franchise agreement for a period of time, and they are asked to pay a X amount of money for the same on a monthly basis or maybe on an annual basis. So this is the entire business agreement about a franchise or rather a mechanism in which trademarks are monetized by the asset holder or the trademark holder. Yeah, let's move forward, Mona Lisa. Merchandising. I've given the example of Harry Potter and Fantastic Beasts, wherein a merchandise agreement was entered into to produce Harry Potter and Fantastic Beasts based toys. Okay, both of these are franchise or landmark or very, very famous movies, series, books, and now they have a bunch of toys which have been created by them by a company known as Spin Master Corporation. Another great example that I like to use for merchandising is for football players. For those who love football or soccer, as it's known in certain countries, CR7 represents the logo or the trademark of Cristiano Ronaldo. When a football club purchases a football player, today he or she is no longer being purchased just for their skills of playing football, but also for their merchandising rights. Having Cristiano Ronaldo play in your team is like having an extra amount of people coming just to watch him, so revenues increase in ticket sales. But more than just the ticket sales, it's the merchandising revenue that people can make off, or the football club can make off him, that matters even more. A jersey of Cristiano Ronaldo sells for quite a lot of money, and die-hard fans would pay that money to purchase that particular jersey. So in a particular year, you could have hundreds of jerseys being sold of Cristiano Ronaldo just because he plays for that particular football club. So this is another example of merchandising. We are seeing this form of this manner of merchandising finding itself into India as well through sports like IPL and ISL. You would find a whole bunch of merchandise of various football clubs and various IPL franchisees, which are up for sale of players such as Virat Kohli or Dhawan and so on and so forth. So this is an excellent example, another example of the sporting field of how merchandising is done for trademarks of very famous personalities. So when you look at merchandising and what it actually means, it basically means the licensing of trademarks, including artwork, as well as fictional characters by these trademarks is referred to as merchandising. It allows the producers of ordinary everyday items such as stationery, clothing, etc. to apply the merchandise trademarks onto their products or use the mark as part of their products. It's a lot to do with sales and making money off these particular trademarks when it comes to merchandising. With franchising, it's all to do with a business model, whereas with merchandising, it's a lot to do with actual sales of the product to which these trademarks are associated with or put in respect or used in respect of. Mona Lisa, can we go to the next slide? But I believe we have a problem because the slide, yeah. Could we go to the next slide, please? Yeah, thank you. Brand extension, another manner and means of extending your brand or extending your trade. Formula One is an excellent example for this. So you have a McLaren racing car company. They make cars, as everybody knows, and they make really, really fast cars. They have an apparel range with Hugo Boss, which is an apparel manufacturer. Similarly, Maserati has a tie-up with Zegna, which makes the Zegna Maserati range of menswear. You have Nike, you have Adidas making products for various small players, various franchisees, and a whole host of other things. So you basically have two brands which are of different fields collaborating together to create a single line or a single product for various things. I have seen Louis Vuitton create phones or tie up with various phone manufacturers to bring out this exclusive limited edition phone set. McLaren has a phone set, I believe, with OnePlus, if my stats are correct. OnePlus has a tie-up with McLaren to bring out what's called the McLaren edition of the OnePlus phone. It's the exact same OnePlus phone that is there with slight tweaking and a co-branding with McLaren. So a brand extension is nothing but a manner in which a company may collaborate with another company who, under the terms and conditions of the agreement, is allowed to apply the trademark on a product or a service. By the application of these famous brands together, both brands gain huge traction and huge success. There is huge number of sales which happen when two brands come together because the loyalists of both brands would like to purchase that particular product. Yeah, let's move forward to the next slide, Mona Lisa, please. Co-branding, very similar to brand extension, but with slight variations. Apple today, being a phone manufacturer, says we would like to get into the sports watch and health fitness arena. The leading manufacturer there, of course, Nike. So they tie up with Nike and they come out with this wonderful edition of watches called the Apple Nike watches. You take two brands, one amazing in the tech field, and another one which has made a name for itself in the sportswear and sports line and sports in general, and you put them together to create a product like the Apple Nike watch, which is nothing but a smart watch, which has been co-branded with two companies. Lexus has a tie-up with Coach, though Lexus is a company who manufactures cars, and Coach is a company in the leather apparel and the leather fields. They make leather bags and so on and so forth. They have tied together so that Lexus cars now come with interiors manufactured with Coach. Closer home, Mahindra has a tie-up with a company known as Italian company known as, I think, Panaferneria. And the latest Mahindra cars, the top of the line models, come with leather seats manufactured by Panaferneria. So these are kind of co-brands which are working together to create this once in a lifetime limited edition product, which is of course priced at much higher levels, and they appeal to the clientele of both brands. So you could have a person who loves Apple and also uses Nike products, and he would definitely purchase a watch where Apple and Nike have co-branded with each other. So this the crux what co-branding basically means. Could you go to the next slide, Mona Lisa, please? Component. So component branding is slightly different. Component branding is where a trademark is, or owner may license the right to use that particular trademark of an ingredient. So best example here is Intel Inside. Intel Inside is nothing but, Intel is nothing but a company which manufactures microprocessors. But every laptop that you see, every computer that you see, every PC that you see has this logo which says with Intel Inside, the microprocessor. So it's nothing but the component which is being branded, and the component is being sold along with that particular laptop. So I have a Dell laptop which says Intel Core 5 8th generation sticker on top of it. So basically the component in Intel is branding it along with Dell and bringing out this laptop with the processor being Intel, which is inside. They could have used an Atom processor, they could have used a Samsung processor, but they've used an Intel processor. McDonald's has this whole range of ice creams with Oreo and McFlurry called McDonald's Oreo McFlurry. So this is a slight variation from other branding or other type of asset management that we have seen. In this particular case, you may not be able to see that ingredient, you may not be able to see that component, but you see the usage of that component or usage of that mark in respect of another product, on top of another product, show that that particular component or ingredient is being used in that particular product. So you're not going to be able to see it. So I may not be able to see Oreo biscuits in my McDonald's McFlurry, but I know it's there because they have a branding and they have a co-branding of it. So they have used Oreo biscuits from the company Oreo to make this very nice ice cream, which is being sold to me. Same with my laptop, which has an Intel processor inside it. Same with your phones. If you look at your phones, you would always find a whole review on processing speed and the kind of processor which is used. So Apple has its own processor. Samsung sometimes uses a Xerox processor rather than an Intel processor. So there are a whole bunch of processors which are being used. MediaTek is another company which has processors which are being used in phones, like I guess Xiaomi uses them. So this is how component branding is another way in which trademark assets are monetized. Can we go to the next slide, please, Mona Lisa? This is the benefits of using these branding. Yeah. Using all of these assets is important. The manner of how we use or how we monetize these business assets is what we have done in the preceding slides. How does it benefit you and I as a owner? Let's say I own a lot of trademarks. How does it benefit me to do all of these things which I just enumerated? It adds a revenue stream for me. Like I stated earlier, the longer I'm not taking action, the more money I'm losing. If I hold an asset, a trademark, I'm sitting with it, I'm not making any money off it, neither am I doing any, I'm not even doing any business off it, then I'm not monetizing it. Let's say I'm doing something with it, I'm having a business, I'm running a very successful business. Having an additional revenue stream never hurt it. And as a business owner, you're never going to say no to having different verticals giving you and bringing you revenue. So it acts as an additional revenue stream. Second, it opens up new channels of distribution or segmenting the market. If I was only targeting the middle class in India, and I had a wonderful product. I make wonderful leather goods with my branding. If I'm able to tie up with a car manufacturer such as Lexus, I'm now looking at a whole different segment of high net worth individuals to put my brand out there, to for them to see my brand. When it says Lexus cars manufactured by brands of XYZ, my image increases. People start getting curious. Oh, this is wonderful leather seating. Who manufactures it? They may look at my other products just on the basis of my co-branding with another entity or another trademark. Discontinued mark can also be licensed. So I might be having an asset. Maybe I got a trademark registered. The business didn't take off very well. It failed. I'm sitting with this trademark. I've got nothing to do with it. I could maybe license it out to someone, get revenue from an asset not making any money, and make it successful. So I don't have to do anything. I just have to find a partner, license the trademark for X amount of money, and ensure that an asset which is dead, which I'm not using, still brings in an additional revenue stream to my overlying outlay of my business. Increase consumer recognition and advertising. I again bring back to the example of the leather seats and the Lexus. I can increase my recognition with a whole bunch of new consumers. It's indirect advertising for me, for my brand. I might be making leather chairs or leather home furniture or office furniture. And because of my tie-up with Lexus, they have given me an amazing opportunity to ensure that my leather furniture finds itself into the homes of all of these high net worth individuals. So it's advertising. It's in your face advertising. It's recognition. It's spreading of my brand to places I normally would not have had the ambit to. Sometimes it can convert an infringer into an ally, franchising and licensing. I've heard stories of how Louis Vuitton went to China and saw the counterfeits being made, and there were such wonderful counterfeits that he contacted the counterfeiters and asked them whether they would actually manufacture for them on the basis of an agreement with him. So that's how you convert maybe an infringer into a franchisee or a licensee. You could do that to ensure that A, your legal costs are kept to a minimum, and B, it's an out-of-the-box way of monetizing something. You have a problem and you've just brought that person to your side as an ally. You're paying him X amount of money, he manufactures for you, he gets a percentage of it. Wonderful, it's all legal. And we have also managed to get rid of an infringer off the market in a very, very unique way. Additionally, you can expand your territory. If I was a small manufacturer, just a very small area in India, because India is a large country, and because of my branding or my co-branding or my tie-up with other people, I'm able to get my brand out there to a huge number of consumers. I benefit because I'm able to expand my territory. And with expansion of my territory, I also increase my chances of sales. So increased sales can occur through increase of my area of sales or increase of my area of recognition or advertising being there. These are in a crux how we monetize our trademarks, how we monetize the assets that we have with us as business owners. It does not mean that you can't take one model and hope it fits everything. You have to look at it from on a case-to-case basis. You have to see what works and what doesn't work. In certain cases like sports, merchandising works. Franchising is not something that you do with sports. Franchising is a model you do with restaurants, with eateries, and so on and so forth. So it depends on what kind of asset you have. It depends on what kind of business you're running. What is the mark or the trademark covering? What are your goods? What are your services? The type of model that you use to monetize your assets depends a whole lot on these things. In conclusion, don't sit with your assets. Try to monetize it. Nobody says no to more money. You can earn money. You can earn money assets and nothing stops you from doing it. Legally, the law supports you and has also provided various mechanisms and mediums and models to do that. So go ahead and monetize your assets and hopefully it becomes a success for all of you. Monalisa, back to you.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an insightful session. I now to Q&A session. If anyone from the audience has any question, please type the same in the chat box and we will put the same to the speaker. Sir, there is a question from a participant.
Yep.
Most of the examples of companies that you have given regarding this presentation are of either big corporates or multinational companies. But how can small companies also take benefit of the strategies that you have suggested in the presentation?
For a small company to take advantage of any of these strategies, the first thing you would need to do is to build your goodwill and reputation in the market. That has to be your first step. Without that, you would be unable to approach a partner and convince him to go along with you. See, when you go to another party, he's going to look at how is it going to benefit him. You're going to have to pitch something. What are you pitching? You can't say, I'm a startup and I do this, and it's great, it's amazing, I have this wonderful technology. He's going to ask you a whole host of questions. He's going to ask you what's your revenue. He's going to ask you what have your sales been, what's your consumer base, what's your target consumers. So the first thing you need to do as a startup or as a smaller company is build your reputation and goodwill in your product, in your trademark. Once you've done that, you will be in a very strong position to partner with any and numerous number of people to take your brand forward. Without that as a first step, you are not going to get a viable partner. And even if you do get a viable partner, the success of that product would depend a lot on your goodwill and your reputation as well. So you can't ride the coattails of another party. That other party is also going to see as to what he or she is going to get out of it. So the first step, increase your brand visibility, increase your goodwill, increase your reputation. Once you have this, go for it. Try to break into a partnership with bigger companies, bigger established companies. By doing that, the world opens up for you for a whole host of other things.
Yes, sir. So the next question from a participant is, can you suggest, the participant wants you to suggest him as he's a small company on startup, and he wants you to suggest him how he can reach out to big brands and collaborate on selling or licensing his company's trademarks. Like, what are the key strategies that can help him in generating consideration through trademark?
Unfortunately, there isn't a mechanism legally for you to approach anyone. Neither can I tell you something which works. The best bet, I think, would be to maybe approach angel investors or companies who help you take things forward, because you're going to have to get in touch with somebody in whichever company you're interested in to take anything forward. So there is no website where you can just go and see a whole bunch of email IDs where you can send emails to saying, I wish to collaborate with. That doesn't how it works. So you're going to have to do a little bit of searching and find the right medium to contact the relevant people in various places. I've seen people contact or use LinkedIn for work-related queries, and some people even send CVs across to other people for it. So you could, using any of these mediums that are there, to get in touch with people, with the marketing departments mainly, and see whether they would be open to the idea of holding discussions with you. That is the only way I believe you can get this forward, because there isn't a directory book of companies and addresses that you could possibly email or call to.
Yes, sir. So there is a question from a participant in the chat box itself. Can you please explain the difference between brand extension and co-branding once again?
Okay. Well, you just look for that particular slide onto the screen. Okay, so forget it. I've got it on my end. No problem. So brand extension, co-branding are very, very similar. So it's not too far-fetched that somebody would get confused in respect of the same. So with brand extension, what happens is that I have a brand and I tie up with someone for a particular period of time to extend it it's only for what do you call it? It's only for a particular period of time, respective of a particular product. Okay, so when Hugo Boss says, okay, let's tie up with McLaren, or OnePlus says, I'll have this one edition of my phone with McLaren branding on it. That's it. McLaren doesn't make phones. McLaren makes cars. So when McLaren says they're attaching a brand to a phone, it's nothing but an extension of their brand, or an extension of the usage of their brand in respect of the products. So nobody knows of McLaren phones. There aren't McLaren phones. With co-branding, what is happening is that you take two very, very famous brands, okay, and you put them together. So Apple and Nike, Apple also makes watches. Apple makes smartwatches. I don't know what they're called, but they do make smartwatches. The Apple Watch or the iWatch. Nike makes a very similar product. So Nike also has its Nike running app, I believe, or Nike Plus as they call it. And that's one of their products which they've had for numerous years. They've had it all the way back to 2010, where they had a sensor which you could put in your shoe. What Nike has done is that they have leveraged Apple and the Apple consumer base to also leverage their own product. So Nike says, listen, we can get a whole bunch of sports metrics, and you have a watch which works. So let's put them together, create this new line, and which benefits both our consumer base. So it's more of a technology sharing agreement which is happening there with Nike and Apple. With brand extension, it's plain and simple. McLaren has no knowledge of making perfumes or shoes or any of that, whereas Hugo Boss does, and they get into an agreement wherein they basically do that. So you can look at it from a perspective of maybe technology transfer. Okay, so in our manufacturing field, this is quite common. You have Toyota and Maruti who have a technology transfer agreement. So the Maruti Baleno is very similar to the exact lookalike of it, which is rebranded as a Toyota car, whose name I can't recollect, but it's rebranded as a Toyota car. So that's maybe in a crux what the difference is between brand extension and co-branding. So Shweta, if you've got that, you can put it. If you have another doubt, you can just put it in the chat box. I can see it on my screen. Just answer you again if you have another doubt. Great. Thank you, Shweta.
Sir, the next question from the participant is, can the strategies you suggested in your presentation be applied for geographical indications as well?
With geographical indications, you can't own it as an asset. A trust or a body has to own it. You can't own a geographical indication as a single. So therein lies your first problem. You don't own the asset. As to can you use your geographical indication and do co-branding or any of those other things? Yes, you can. So you could have a geographical indication like, just trying to think of one which works. Yeah, you could have champagne, okay, which is a geographical indication. And you could have maybe a luxury brand like Donna Karan or maybe Louis Vuitton, who has this very limited edition bottle called Louis Vuitton Champagne. So it's champagne manufactured in the district of Champagne and manufactured exclusively for Louis Vuitton. So you could have something like that. That works. But the owning of the asset wouldn't be by you. You can't. GI law is very clear on who owns assets. So it has to be a body of people who owns assets, which can, and it's not a single individual. It's a group of people or an association which owns that particular asset. There might be a GI session which Mona Lisa is aware of, which she might be able to guide you as to understand the crux of the particulars in respect of a GI or who can apply for a GI.
Sir, the next question, the final question from a participant is, would you recommend spending on sponsorships or social media promotion for creating brand awareness and visibility as a predecessor strategy before reaching out to big brands?
Of course, social media advertisement is like an excellent medium through which brands can put the word out there about their particular goods and services, which the trademark covers. Paid advertising on sites such as Facebook do not cost too much. I have experimented with it to understand it. They don't cost too much, and you specify your outreach. So you can specify. So I can specify that I would like to target audience based in Noida, or I can target audience based in Delhi or Mumbai. I can target audience between a particular age group of, let's say, 30 to 35, depending on what goods and services I'm offering, or maybe younger if it's maybe food related products. So it's an excellent medium to put the word out there. It's an excellent medium of making the consumer understand or have knowledge of something that is out there, to understand that yes, there is a product like this out there which is great. You can purchase it from Facebook Shop or Amazon or Flipkart or wherever. So it's a wonderful way to put your word out there. And once you have the word out there, once sales pick up, then the sky's the limit as to who you can approach and what you can do with your mark or your trademark. You can monetize it, you can brand it, you can co-brand it, you can do a bunch of things with it. Once you have that kind of leverage to do it.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for addressing the questions. It was wonderful having you in today's session. Thank you for being a part of the virtual school.
Thank you, Mona Lisa, and have a good evening to one and all. Cheers.
Thank you everyone for being a part of day 5, session 2 of the virtual school on IP. We now conclude this session. We'll start the next session at 7 sharp.